on the show on Chatting It Up, we have Jennifer Blecher, who went to UPenn for her undergraduate education, then went to Northeastern School of Law and worked as an assistant district attorney with Philadelphia's DA's office before moving to Boston. Although Jennifer had played around with writing fiction off and on, she had her first child and began writing for magazines. This year, though, she produced her first project, the Star Sisters series of books, which is unique and different from everything else in the early chapter book industry. So Jennifer now lives in Wellesley with her 3 daughters and is working on finishing up the 3rd and 4th books in the series. So Jennifer, welcome to the show. It's so lovely to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So while growing up, Jennifer, what were some of your inspirations that contributed towards your going to law school and then eventually begin to write?
So I think from the very beginning, I always loved to read. As a little child, I just remember devouring Anne of Green Gables and all of those books, and then moving on to Sweet Valley High and Babysitter's Club and everything. And when I was in college, I majored in international relations and did a fabulous internship at the Public Defender Service in Washington, D.C. And it was just exciting. I was on my feet working, and I sort of followed that track to law school.
And do you have siblings?
I do. I have 2 younger brothers.
So you're the eldest.
I am the oldest.
You set the rules in the house.
I did, and I was the only girl, so I really had to keep those guys in line.
Boys in line, right. Sounds good. And what did they do? Are they writers, or
one of my brothers actually loves to write. He did a great internship in college at the Atlantic Monthly, but he's in medical school now. He sort of followed that path. And then my youngest brother is in advertising. He's just this great outgoing kid living in New York City and just doing advertising.
Nice, awesome. So when you were in high school, for example, a high school student, did you decide early on having this career, or like while you were in school, or did it take you a while, like in college, to figure out what you wanted to do?
I think it's taken me up until now to figure out what I want to do. I mean, I think it's hard to figure out what you want to do, and you sort of take it step by step. In college was wonderful, and I had a great time, and I majored in international relations partly because it allowed me to focus on lots of different things. And law school was wonderful as well, and my career as an assistant district attorney was great. But each chapter in your life, there's something new, and when you have kids and you have a family, it just throws a whole different you have a whole different perspective on sort of what you want to do as your career. So I'm still trying to, I think I figured it out now.
Work in process, right?
Work in
progress.
Yeah.
So I asked this question because I like to get Wellesley High School students, for example, to tune in and get some advice, whether they want it or not. So I always ask these questions. So in high school, did you have mentors, either in your family or in school, that sort of motivated you to do things, to be inspired?
So in high school, I think one mentor was my dad, who's an amazing writer. He edits a lot of medical school textbooks, and he definitely had that heavy red pen and would really have high standards for all of our writing. I think the other thing that was important to me in high school was sports, believe it or not. I was a competitive figure skater, and I think that as much as that's not the academic side, I think it was really crucial in helping me develop sort of independence and motivation.
And I assume there's a lot of steps and discipline and methodical approaches towards figure skating. It's not as easy as it looks.
It's not as easy as it looks.
The timing and the counts, and so that's it's like learning Latin almost.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
It's a grammar in a sense, right?
It's a whole different language, and it's funny because my oldest daughter is now taking up ice skating, and I can see in her face just this intense concentration that she doesn't have in other parts of her life, and it's making me realize that she is learning so much beyond just the physical sport.
Do you find yourself saying, "Remember to smile"?
She's a smiler, so she's pretty good at that. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So in college, what made you decide to go into the law? Did you have great professors?
I went to University of Pennsylvania, which was a fabulous school, but it was really big. And I don't think I ever found that one mentor professor. I think I was just surrounded by a lot of really smart people doing interesting things, and sort of that's how I sort of followed the law school track.
So would you describe yourself more as a mainstream sort of girl or an outlier?
I think I would describe myself as an outlier. I definitely, have you heard of the book Quiet, about introverts and the power of introverts?
Yes.
And I have read parts of that book, and I definitely identify with that and see parts of that in myself. I think just maybe that's part of the reason why I was drawn to figure skating as opposed to like more mainstream conventional sports. Yeah, I'm definitely a little bit of an outlier.
Awesome. So tell us about your book series, the Star Sisters, and how did you come up with this wonderful name?
Okay, so the book series, The Star Sisters, is based on these two girls that have these magical necklaces with star pendants. And when the necklaces are brought together, magic happens and these girls go on kindness spreading adventures. I was inspired to write this series when my oldest daughter, the figure skater, started reading chapter books. And I feel like the world of picture books are amazing. I mean, there are just so many classic picture books that I'm sure you as a mother, we all know and love and will keep in our basements forever when our kids are grown. But when we started moving into the early chapter book series, I just didn't feel that same connection. There are obviously incredible chapter books out there. I mean, there's Charlotte's Web, there's Little House on the Prairie, you can go on and on. But for the younger kids that are just starting to get into chapter books, they can't really make that leap from picture books to Charlotte's Web. There has to be some sort of intermediary. And I didn't find a series that I connected with. And I was talking to my husband about this one night. And it was actually his idea. He said, you should do something like what Pixar does for movies. And you should write a series that moms are going to love reading just as much as their kids. And it sort of sparked this light bulb in my head that there could be a way to write for this age group and in this genre that mothers would love or fathers just as much as their children. And when I started writing, I had that as a goal, to write for parents as well as kids. I also wanted my characters, my two main girls, to be nice girls. I wanted them to be kind. I wanted them to be polite. I didn't want them to talk back to adults, as can sometimes happen in some of these chapter books. And I wanted the settings to be really interesting, which is why each of my books focuses on a different place, a different story. They travel someplace really, really neat. And it's just been a dream come true. I mean, when I think back to how you asked about what I wanted to do, I feel like now I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm so proud and happy about it.
Which is great to find a passion that you're really excited about, that you're excited to wake up in the morning and want to do.
It's amazing.
And what's your target age group for these books?
So the sweet spot for the age group is definitely later 4s, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, the kids that may be starting to read, but they can't necessarily read chapter books on their own, so parents are reading to them. But what I'm loving, what has just taken me by complete surprise, is that even the 8, 9, 10-year-olds who are reading on their own are just loving these books. So that's something I didn't expect and just makes me really happy.
And how did you structure it? Is it in terms of vocabulary words or the length of paragraphs to get that intermediate spot? What was your sweet spot for that?
Because I wrote these picturing that parents would be reading them aloud, I definitely stepped up the vocabulary. There's long, complex sentences, there's descriptive passages, there's complicated words. Because
so it really is a transition.
It's a transition. I mean, that's the way I speak to my children.
With pictures.
With pictures, but also using full vocabulary and complicated words, and I just think it's not bad for them to hear, even if they don't necessarily understand it independently, they can get it in context.
And the book is a trilogy? It's a 3-part, three pieces in the series.
So there's 3 completed. I'm working on the 4th right now, which I'm really excited about. The first 2 are on sale now. The 3rd one's going on sale next week, but it's completed.
Awesome.
And as long as they keep selling the way they've been selling, I will write them forever.
Awesome. There are a lot of adventures these girls get into.
Well, that's the cool thing. I'm not constrained by any place or any situation. With these necklaces, they can go anywhere.
Right, and is it 2 girls, the protagonists in the book? They're 2 or 3?
It's 2 girls, Coco and Lucy. And they both moved to this town. They don't know anybody. And I think, going back to your question about being an outsider, these 2 girls are lonely. I mean, they both feel a little bit like outsiders. And they go to a stream in a forest at the end of the street, and they fall into this stream. And when they fall into this stream, it sort of ignites all this magic and brings this story about their necklaces and how they used to belong in an ancient land where there were princess sisters that spread magic, and that sort of starts the whole story. And a lot of the undertone of the books is these girls sort of feeling grateful for having each other and finding a different way now that they're together. and they have a lot of fun together.
So are they actual sisters or are they friends?
They're
who
not sisters.
Feel like they're sisters.
They become sisters in magic.
Right. Awesome.
But they're friends.
And you're also selling the necklaces, right? You're making and selling the necklaces as well. So they're little star necklaces.
So there's these great star necklaces that look exactly like the ones that the girls wear in the book, and I love them. But another reason why I really wanted to do the necklaces is because I feel like books are a great birthday gift for or holiday present or anything for children of this age group. But oftentimes moms are a little bit hesitant to just give a book. They might think it's just not all that much fun necessarily, which is not true. But you know, it's what people can think. Kids expect toys. So I think by adding the necklaces to the books, I think it just makes it the perfect gift, and I'm very excited about the necklaces.
Awesome. And do you make those yourself?
I bought the pendants. There are these green acrylic stars, and then I make them myself at home.
Look at that.
With my little, I took a little beading class, and now I'm a jeweler as well. Although that will not be my next career.
Awesome.
I'm going to stick with the writing. This is just a side career.
Very creative.
Yeah.
So without giving away the plot, because I do want people to buy the book and read it for themselves, so give us a little hint of what we can expect from books 1, 2, and 3.
So each book is sort of inspired by a modern cultural event, which is where the appeal for the parents comes in.
In terms of politics, or?
It's not politics. It's definitely more pop culture.
Okay.
I think that moms work very hard during the day. We put in our time, and sometimes at the end of the night, we just need a little bit of humor.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with a little pop culture reference in our lives every once in a while. So the first book is inspired by the royal wedding of the century, which I'm sure we can all remember.
Right.
Kate Middleton and Prince William.
Right.
And the girls go to Buckingham Palace, where they end up being flower girls in this wedding. And there's a fight between sisters over some of the wedding attire, and the girls work with a royal seamstress to help save the day. The second book is inspired by a very famous singer who tends to write songs about her heart being broken, about
the breakup songs.
The breakup songs, right? That become these
and I'm sure she could use
great
a counselor.
sensations. Yeah. So this is a book about a little girl that has a fight with her best friend. And she writes a song that hurts her best friend's feelings, and she doesn't understand how her words can affect what other people think. So Coco and Lucy, the two little girls, go to help her understand that her words have power, and they end up saving the day, and the friends come back together, and there's a dance recital at the end, and it's a lot of fun.
Including a dance recital. How exciting.
It's a good dance.
And do you keep them within the U.S., or do they travel out of country?
So they were in London for the first one.
Right.
The second one is just sort of a generic, fabulous location.
Oh, sounds good.
Third one is at an ice skating national competition. And then the fourth one that I'm working on now, I think is going to be set at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, which
That's
has
a
been
good
really
location.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's nice. I mean, I think that it's nice to introduce those kind of places to kids and moms.
And the Met is really like going to 20 different countries under one roof. Right?
Totally, absolutely. Yeah. Who doesn't love New York City?
So you're clearly drawing from your experience as a figure skater. Do you ever, did you find your experience at the attorney's office ever coming into any of these books?
I think the district attorney's office was an invaluable experience. I mean, I was up on my feet, talking every day, thinking on my feet, just working really hard. So even though I'm now writing, I just still always draw on that sort of high pressure, fast paced work environment. And I think I do bring some of that to my writing. I mean, I push myself very hard. I wake up every morning and write before my kids wake up. It's kind of, you have to sometimes. And so I think a little bit of that go, hard driving environment has come into play in my work.
Yeah. And what would your advice be for people who are introverts or who feel like they're introverts but then have to do a lot of public speaking? They get a job at the district attorney's office and suddenly they find themselves having to stand up in front of people and talk about important situations.
The beauty of that job is that I was sort of young and didn't know any better. So that is, if you feel like you might be concerned about doing that sort of work, do it while you're young. Just get up there when you don't know any better, and when it's fast, and you don't have time to think about everything that you could be saying wrong.
Awesome. That's good advice.
But I think it's a skill set that everybody works on, no matter how confident or comfortable they are with the idea of public speaking.
Absolutely. Awesome. So tell us, give us a little spoiler for book 4.
So book 4, I'm loving.
What do we have to look forward to in book 4? Because it's very exciting.
Book 4 is going to be based on one of the most successful authors of our time, J.K. Rowling. And I just found personally so much inspiration from her story because she had a lot of trouble getting published. I've read stories about how dozens of agents rejected her.
And she lived out of her car.
And she kept at it, kept at it, didn't let anyone tell her no, stuck to her guns, and she ended up having this phenomenal success story because kids really responded to what she wrote. And she wrote from her heart, and she wrote what kids wanted to read, and she was correct.
It's quite an intricate plot series. It's not like it's uncomplicated, the entire Harry Potter series. It's actually got a lot of twists and turns, and it's surprising that kids who are young on the younger side can relate to that and understand it.
Absolutely.
So it was really astounding.
It was just completely different.
The response
for that
was really amazing. Right.
Yep. And so I've sort of drawn a lot of inspiration from her story, and so it's going to be about a little girl that wants to be a writer, and no one takes her seriously.
Right.
But Coco and Lucy come, and they give her the courage to keep trying, and it ends up
pretty good.
Ends up working.
So we got a feel-good ending. That's good.
All the books have feel-good endings.
It's good to read at 9 o'clock at night when you're trying to get the kids to bed, right? That's what you really are.
9 o'clock. My kids are fast asleep by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, just wait for a while. Right.
Oh no.
So tell us anything else that you might want to add. Your process, your thoughts on going about this.
Yep.
Give us anything else that you might like to throw in there about why these books are great and about yourself.
So, I mean, one thing that I'm very proud about these books is that I've self-published them. I've published them independently. It was a hard decision to make, but I really wanted to do something different with this genre, and I wanted to have complete control because, unfortunately, that's the way I am, for better or for worse. So I wanted beautiful covers, high-quality paper, wonderful illustrations on every single page. And I'm so proud that that's what I got in the end, but getting to that point was so much work. Writing these books was one step, producing them was another step, getting them printed and now marketing them has been a whole nother process. So one thing that I didn't expect was how I was basically going to have 4 jobs wrapped into this one. But at the same time, I don't think, looking back, I would have done it differently.
So for budding writers out there who are struggling with similar things, give us some of the pros and cons of the struggles that you went through deciding on how to publish this series, like going traditional or self.
So I think for budding writers, I think it's an amazing time. There's so many options that there weren't 10 years ago. So I think that everybody should try to get published conventionally if this is their dream and they have something that they're very proud of and they want to make it happen. That does take time, I'm sure you know. I mean, it's a process between getting an agent, the agent pitching it to the editor accepting it. It's a long, long process. And it does not always work out, and it's easy to lose stamina with that. And so if that's the case, and you still just feel in your heart like you have to get this writing out or you have to produce this project, I think doing it independently is a fabulous option. There's there's so many options now these days. You can do print on demand. I think there's several companies that do print on demand, which means that the book is only printed when someone actually purchases it. And then there's a lot of smaller companies, I believe, that you can pay to print your book for you, and they'll sort of help you. There's people that will help you every step of the way, or you can try and do it all on your own, which is an endeavor not to be taken lightly.
But now you're an expert.
Now I'm an expert, and I can lay out any Word document that you need me to.
Right, there you go. So in maybe 10 years, you might start your own publishing company.
Maybe, unless Star Sisters is doing so well that I'm still writing Star Sisters and I've moved on to the next age group. But I definitely have, I've learned a ton through this process.
And is that something that you're thinking of doing? You might change age groups?
Yeah, I mean,
so grow the book with your children?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite time of the day is just reading to my kids at night. So as my children get older, I mean, I hope I'll always continue writing for them until they get into the scandalous things that I just can't.
That you can't write about.
That I can't write about.
Well, you never
for my
know.
own
By then
children.
you'll be an expert in the scandalous department.
True.
And you might find that your books are selling even better once you get into the scandalous sections, right?
You never know. You never know. It's so funny. I just know nothing beyond this age group now, but I'm very excited to watch my kids progress and hopefully write for them forever.
Awesome. And so tell us some of your children's favorite books.
My children's favorite book.
Aside from Star Sisters.
Yep. So we are huge Mo Williams fans in my house. I love everything that he's done. Knuffle Bunny is a particular favorite forever and ever. Charlotte's Web, we just finished with my older daughter. We're reading this great series now called The Doll People, which is about these dolls that come to life. That's
my daughter
wonderful.
loves that as well.
Wonderful. The woman that wrote it also wrote The Babysitter's Club.
That's right.
Which was so exciting for me to learn because I loved The Babysitter's Club growing up. 12 Dancing Princesses, sort of the classic fairy tales. A lot of them have been reworked and republished with amazing illustrations, so those are always a big hit.
Right.
And then with my youngest, we're still at the Brown Bear.
Aw.
Yeah, which is great.
That's
Goodnight
sweet.
Moon,
Right.
all those wonderful books.
Right.
So,
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jennifer. This has been such a pleasure.
thanks for having
You come in
me.
today, and we'll have to have you back on the show to talk about your 5th and 6th books when they come out.
Fingers crossed.
So is the 4th book coming out next year then, or is it slated for this year?
So my hope is that the 4th book will come out in September.
Oh,
I mean, that's
good.
another beautiful thing
Right.
about doing it yourself is
Right.
that if you can push it fast, you
Right.
can push it fast.
You can do it at your own time speed, and
Yep.
awesome.
It's me and my illustrator and my Word documents. So
Good to know.
if I
And do you get any sleep during the week, or as you save it up for the weekends?
save it up for the weekends,
yeah.
I'm just
Awesome.
naturally an early riser, so that conveniently
Awesome.
works.
That is very useful.
Yes.
It's good to be an early riser. You get
Yes.
more done. Right. Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. It's
Thanks
been such
for
a pleasure,
having
and
me.
I'm sure your book will be a great success.
Thank you. Thanks.